Hello, and welcome to Discovering with Dr. Deb. We're new to podcasting, but I certainly hope this content is helpful to you. Over the course of the next couple seasons, I'll be sharing content about the Enneagram, trauma, and how living in this pandemic has added a lot of trauma to our lives, and how to move on from here. EMDR, eye movement, desensitization, and reprocessing, and how it helps people move through and past their trauma, self-care, and more mental health stuff. We'll be spending the first season looking at the Enneagram and how you can use the Enneagram to learn more about yourself and why you do what you do. Discovering the Enneagram with Dr. Deb is next. Hello and welcome. Today we are going to talk with a couple of my friends who are Enneagram Sixes. They are Enneagram Type 6. And of course, I'm here with I'm going to call you today my Enneagram Authority.
Whoa!
I know, he stepped up, hasn't he?
Look
Enneagram
at
Authority.
you, my friend right here.
My Enneagram Authority 6, Jason, he is Type 3. You recognize as a Type 3.
I'm very 3.
Right. So the neat thing about working with sixes today is I'm a 9, you're 3, and our sixes in stress, they go to a 3. In health, they go to a 9. So we'll it'll kind of get us all in our feels today. Anyway, it'll touch us all. So anyway, today we've got a couple of my friends here to help us understand the what it's like to be an Enneagram Type 6. But first off, I just kind of want to give this a little intro. The Enneagram is a personality typing system, and it's just a tool that we really love because it helps us to know ourselves better and love our people better. It's just a tool, one of many, that can help with personal growth. We really find it helpful, and we're talking with both a male and female of each type. So today we have Stephen and Alice. These are just friends who are just normal people who found the Enneagram helpful for understanding themselves better. Of course, they don't represent everything about their number, nor do they represent every person who identifies with their number. It just gives us a glimpse into the Type 6. So be sure to go back and listen to the other types that we've recorded as well. So Type 6s are known as the loyalist. So even when we were chatting before, Stephen kind of alluded to that. But I want to welcome to the podcast today, Stephen and Alice. And you're my friends who identify as sixes. So we wanted you guys on the podcast today. So first I'll start with Stephen. Introduce yourself, your first name, marital status, jobs, kids, whatever you want to tell us about yourself.
Who are you, Stephen?
My name is Stephen, obviously. I have a wife that we've been married 27 years now.
Awesome.
I guess I'm loyal to that.
Yeah.
You think? We have, how many kids do I have?
You have a bunch.
I have 5 official kids, 2 biological, 3 adopted, and then there have been countless others.
Countless others that call you
through.
guys family. Yes.
Absolutely.
Yes.
That's awesome.
And even in that, you've got all different races that
we
have
are
adopted you and that you have
a
adopted.
transracial family.
Right.
But yeah, so, and then I just recently, a couple of years ago, retired from law enforcement, which that was my identity for 23 years. And so that was kind of hard to shake that identity. But now I work for an organization here in Crawford and Sebastian County, and I work with kids who are at risk of going to jail, basically. And so I work with at-risk kids now.
Right.
Very good.
Right. All right, Alice, go ahead and introduce yourself to us.
Yeah. So my name is Alice, obviously. I'm married to my husband, Dan, of 14 years, who is a 9 on the Enneagram. And we have 2 lovely little boys that keep us very busy. I'm an emergency physician by training, but I took a step away from that last year to be able to meet the needs of myself and my family more fully. So I'm also beginning a business this year on Enneagram coaching, and hope to eventually step into the realm of consulting as well.
Okay, so that just kind of gives us a little launch into the next question. Like, how did you learn about the Enneagram, and how did you learn that you're a 6? What's that like for you?
So I learned about this when I was actually getting some coaching with Dr. Sasha Shilcutt around some burnout, moral injury in my career. And she just suggested that I take an Enneagram test. And I didn't really get into it a lot because I tested as a 1 initially, which doesn't surprise me because I was really wrapped up in an issue around equity at the time. And so I think I was really identifying with like that justice part of a 1, the reformer type. And so that part sounded right to me, but the rest of it, not entirely. And so I ended up starting to listen to Ian Morgan Cron's typology podcast and Suzanne Stabile's podcast as well. And I retested and got a 6, and I still wasn't like, I don't know, doesn't really feel like me. And then Suzanne Stabile had a woman on there who was a counterphobic 6, and it was like all the bells were going off, and I was like, okay, now that I get. So, yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. So talk just a minute about the counterphobic 6.
Oh, so within each number, you do have your subtypes. And
Right.
so counterphobic 6 is just the counter type to 6. So it's really, 6s have fear, right, as something that they deal with. And counterphobic 6s are the 1-to-1 6s. And so they deal with fear more by way of aggression. And so they're often in denial to their fear. And they tend to take on fear from a position of strength. So it looks and it feels completely different than a self-preservation 6.
Gotcha.
However, I very much believe that, I heard Ian Morgan Cron actually interviewing a 6, and he said, he believes all 6s live in a continuum from phobic to counterphobic, which I do believe is true. I see at different points in my life where I was really maybe more 1 subtype, or maybe certain issues where I actually was more self-pres or more phobic. But overall, my lens is definitely a lot of my life been the counterphobic 6.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
I've heard counterphobic 6s say, I'm not afraid of anything.
Mm-hmm.
Oh.
Well, okay, so that makes so much sense to me because I wanted so bad to be a 1 when I was going to take the test. I thought that's going to be me. But it wasn't. But at the same time, I think I identify more as a
counterphobic 6. Yeah.
To walk into a crowded room, but I'm gonna walk in and own it.
Right.
Like I'm gonna walk in like I'm supposed to be there, and I am.
Yeah.
But that's also, I think, has a lot to do with my law enforcement training.
Sure.
too.
Yeah. Sure. I bet that did that.
But I think it made it easier.
Being present.
Yeah. Well, Stephen, tell us about your journey of being a 6. So you're hearing some of this counterphobic stuff. It's like, oh, that makes a little bit more sense for me.
I'm not very far into this.
Right.
Like a few months ago, I overheard my wife and probably Abby and some other friends talking about this Enneagram stuff.
Right. Because we had this conversation in my pool last summer.
Yeah.
They did the test after that.
The test after
and then
that,
you heard about
and
it.
then I ended up doing the test. And outside of taking the test and listening to a couple podcasts recently, I'm really starting my journey trying to figure all this out. But I really do. By the way, I don't remember what Dustin is. What is Dustin?
I think she told me she's a 3, which
Okay,
I'm like,
yeah.
huh?
Mm,
Oh, okay.
I don't know.
I don't know
I
either.
don't know.
Oh,
Strange. But yeah, I'm just trying to learn. I'm
okay.
taking all this in today.
Okay, so this
Mhm.
is all new for you. But Alice, you can tell me you're a 6 without telling me you're a 6.
My family didn't run out of anything during the pandemic, and we did not have to rush to the store.
So prepared. Got a plan.
Another thing would be is I don't travel anywhere now that I have kids that I don't know that there is a working carbon monoxide monitor, or we bring our own.
They're always
interesting.
prepared. That's right.
So Alice, I have a question for you.
Yeah.
So I know several people that struggle between, sometimes I think I'm a 1, sometimes I think I'm a 6, sometimes I think I'm a 1, sometimes I think I'm a 6. 1s and 6s have a lot of similarities. Was that an issue for you?
I definitely, okay, well, a big way to tease that out is how do you make decisions? A 1 doesn't falter. A 6 has a committee. And we're going to doubt the hell out of ourselves. So even though I'm counterphobic, and there are certain situations like my career, my job, once I found my confidence through a couple mentors. So I'm a 6. It really took a couple mentors that were in my training that said, you have this, and they would put me in a high pressure situation and be like, give me the win. And then once I found that, I never lost that. So in that realm, I'm super confident. And when it's critical, when it's got to be quick, I shine. But now outside of that, if there's more time, I take longer with the decisions. 1s don't do that.
Even when it's the right decision, do you still feel the need to involve others to affirm that it's the right decision?
Validation.
100%.
Definitely need validation.
Validation.
Mhm.
That's a good thing. Yeah. Validation, because you don't want to make the wrong decision.
Right.
And I have like a couple dear friends that are 1s, and they're like, no, it's just this.
Yeah.
And I actually have started asking some of my 1 friend, they're just so sure.
Yeah. And they don't need anybody else's opinion.
What were you gonna say, Stephen?
I think like I don't feel like I have issues making decisions when I have to make one, but then I need that validation, and it's made me think back just as part of the conversation, like answering calls as a police officer. You have officers that just rush in there, but I'm the one that just kind of I kind of ease into it and get different pieces. I've got to have all the pieces of the story. And I never moved as fast as some of the other officers did in situations. For me, it slowed down.
Okay. Yeah. Would that have been similar for your experience as an ER doc?
Yes.
Yeah.
I'll tell you, one of the things that really, really helped me early on, I think it was it's in Kevin Costner movie For Love of the Game, where he was a baseball pitcher. So one of the things that I was taught is clear the mechanism. So things, and I'm sure Stephen's experienced this, things in emergency situations are often very chaotic. I think of people that were pushed out of cars after being shot, whatnot, or somebody that's family brings them to the waiting room, they're just collapsing, and it's just on. There's no warning, it's on. And so you have things you need to work through. You have checklists, and it's really important to command the room. You need people to be confident in you and your abilities. And I clear the mechanism. And it's kind of funny because things will be chaotic, but in my mind, things are very quiet.
Yeah.
And I'm able to just see what I need to see, communicate what I need to communicate. It does get quieter, and it does slow down.
I'm going to read a little. This is how Suzanne Stabile describes the 6. She believes there are more 6s in the world than any other number, which I was like, wow, that's kind of interesting. And she thinks that's really good news. And right now she thinks it's good news because sixes are the most concerned about the common good, and we need a lot of that. Unfortunately, they are the least likely to put themselves forward and share their thoughts and ideas. They hold back because they don't trust themselves. It's very disconcerting that they don't trust themselves because we all trust them. We find them to be so trustworthy. Sixes are burdened, they're saddled with and given opportunities because their passion or their sin is fear, that kind of Alice alluded to, which we will talk about more as anxiety, which is the concern or worry about possible future events. And then this time in our lives, there's fear everywhere. And the sixes don't get a break from that, what they struggle to step back from. Sixes are the people who make up the fabric of every organization or group that we belong to. They're the people who are just here. They are loyal and they're true. They're going to stay. They are not leaving. They don't leave over minor things. They are very, very committed to wanting to do their part and do it well. They don't need to do anybody else's part. They don't run over you, but they do get their feelings hurt if you don't do the part that was yours to do. They want everybody to pull their part because the way they see it is that it's all of us together trying to move forward. Lots of sixes are school teachers. Lots of sixes are in positions where they try to level the playing field for everybody. Sixes are very focused on courage, but Suzanne Stabile thinks they need to move the dial just a little and focus on faith because sixes are very courageous. They just need to believe in themselves and also believe in something that is bigger than they are in order to find more comfort in the world. She thinks part of what divides us comes from sixes. It comes from all of us, but part of what divides us comes from sixes is that when people who are afraid can't find a safe place inside themselves, then they attach to beliefs. It's the thing that creates a place to stand. Everybody wants to belong and have meaning, and sixes want to belong, and they often find belonging within belief systems. Unfortunately, many years of belief systems keep their place to stand by being over against rather than meeting at the table. So I was just going to ask you guys, what stands out to each of you from that description of a six? Go ahead, Alice. I'll let you go first.
The part about getting our feelings hurt if you don't do your part. I cringe at that a little bit, honestly, as
Stephen was nodding when I read that part. Yeah, he was nodding.
I don't like that getting the feelings hurt thing, but what does happen, because that just feels a little childish to me, but it does make me angry. If it's something I'm passionate about, if it's something I'm involved in, I'm happy to go along with somebody else as the leader, as long as I think they have everyone's interest in mind and they're working hard and they're doing a good job. But historically for me in my life, there's hell to pay if you deviate from that. And, or you're not achieving the level I think you need or could be for the good of everybody. And that's when I tend to step forward. That's where I've had conflict in my life. And I'm learning that about myself and how to be more self-aware in those situations. But I am very sure that that's a true statement for me and something that I've learned that's super important. It's also why now with this self-awareness, I understand and realize how absolutely important it is that when I'm a part of a group, when I'm a part of something, I truly have to feel like I have the support of those around me, or I can't be a part of it. It's gotcha. Now less for me.
Right. Stephen?
That just made me think about some conflicts I had in law enforcement where like in training officers, and I see this one or a set of traits in an officer I'm training, and I'm like, oh my gosh, this is awful. He does not need to have this job. But then I always felt like they would pass that person off to another training officer who was more concerned with making himself look like a great training officer. And all of a sudden, this person's just doing great and fixed. And I'm just like, y'all don't You don't see that.
They're not seeing it,
They're not-
right?
They're not seeing what's going on. And
Right.
it's very frustrating.
Right.
And also when I became a supervisor, I immediately became loyal to the men and women I supervise.
Ah.
And so when that happened, then, I'm trying to help and protect my guys, but, it felt like supervisors above me were like trying to tell me that, no, that's not the right thing. You need to do this and this. I don't know. It just created a lot of conflict. For me.
Right. I can see that. That kind of happens too for nines, because we feel caught in the middle a
Mhm.
lot, and
Oh,
we
yeah.
want, So
Yeah, one of my biggest, one of the main reasons I retired when I did was because for years I felt like I was caught in the middle of a tug of war between law enforcement and racial justice. And it just got to the point where I was just like, I can't be loyal to both anymore. I need to give one of them up.
That's a quality that sixes and ones share that I was talking about, is the justice part, which a lot of times for those who are not counterphobic have a really hard time going, am I one? Am I a six? Am I one? Am I a six? Because that justice is so strong in both the ones and the sixes.
And I'm curious too, I know, because you would think those should go together between law enforcement and the community, like we're there to protect the community. And so the fact that it had you feeling torn internally makes it even more difficult, I would think.
Oh, it's very,
and
very
I know
stressful.
Right. Back then, I remember we had several conversations like what you could do next. And it was like, it's sad to think, because you want police officers who have that passion for all of the community, for the good of the community, for justice, right?
That's I've been looking for a way out for a while.
A long time.
And finally I just said, what are you looking for? Just go.
Right.
And find the next thing.
Yeah. Was there anything else in that description that I read that kind of stuck out for you, or?
Not, I think we pretty much hit all.
Yeah. What about the part where she said sixes don't trust themselves, even though everybody else trusts them?
Yeah, that's hard for me. But I can see it.
Okay.
Yeah.
It doesn't feel that way very often. I don't think, sometimes it feels like people want to call a lot of sixes, like the naysayers or devil's advocate, or try and just stir up trouble. Right. So it doesn't come off that everybody else trusts us a lot. But again, that's why it goes back for me now moving forward at this point in my life, when I'm going to be involved in something, I have to know that I'm going to have some validation. I'm going to have some support because of that piece, that it's very easy to have that self-doubt. And that self-doubt is really just a manifestation of the fear.
Would you say that sixes don't get involved in things, in group things as quickly for that reason? Because they want to know that what they're being a part of is going to be right and good and organized, or however you want to call it, whatever those words are?
I would say I didn't have that discernment earlier. For me, it was whatever it was about. The good of all is so important for me. And maybe not necessarily the good of all, but it's really, I'm like, sixes are for the underdog. I'm all about who's the vulnerable, or, people that aren't seen. And those are the people that I tend to step up to bat for.
That tugs on your heart. Yeah, that tugs on your heartstrings. Yeah.
Sixes are, I've always wondered what's wrong with me, because the group stuff, I'm like, but I think that's more my counterphobic, because it is kind of hard for me.
So we know that sixes like to be prepared. You talked about you were not caught off guard during the pandemic, didn't run out of toilet paper. What are your thoughts about surprises? Because you guys like to be prepared. You like to kind of have run through scenarios and the options. You've got this committee in your head that weighs everything out. Talk to me a little about surprises. Steven, you want to go first?
I hate surprises. Even as a kid, I was the kid who you weren't going to surprise me for my, if mom had already, if I had any inkling that presents were already bought, I was finding them. I don't, which is also weird because as a police officer, you get a call or you make a traffic stop and you have no idea what's going to happen.
It's all about surprises.
So
Yeah.
it's this mental
think
game
about
of
that.
you as you're on your way to a call, you're going through every scenario you can possibly go through
What
to
could
know what
happen.
you're going
I
to
hadn't
do.
thought about
If
that.
this,
Mhm.
if this, then that. If this,
Right.
then
Right.
it's just a constant. Your mind's moving 90 to nothing.
Yeah. So both of you actually have these professions where you don't know what to expect when you go into work.
Yep. I was thinking
Wow.
a whole bunch, just first responders and emergency medicine. We get a more sterilized version.
Right.
Yeah. Well, yeah. But I mean, it's like you get this call of someone unconscious in their home and maybe dead, and you get there and you realize it's a homicide, and then as other officers start arriving on scene, you're just okay. You do this. You do this. You do that. You're literally just telling you're like in that moment you're so confident, but again, later on I would need somebody to sit down and debrief with because to validate.
Isn't that interesting? Does that come innately to you, Stephen? Because I found for me that I wonder if it is a sixth trait, or maybe it's a counterphobic thing because we come at things with strength and power, the uncertainty. But like emergencies, I'm great in an emergency. Suddenly I find the calm. Oh, no. Has it always been that way for you, Stephen?
I think so, yeah. And I mean, I'm just curious, is that also like y'all were talking about sixes go to threes in this? Is that part of that? I don't know.
I think it is because
it is too. Yes.
they find the confidence.
So what you've been describing, Alice, is I'm a 3, and we were talking about this, how she, Dr. Brabaway is a 9, and you go to 3
In stress.
And you go to
9
and growth.
and health.
And ours are just the opposite.
Right.
6 and 9. But it's just interesting because my wife is a 6. And I have often thought, I wonder if she's an 8.
We've talked about this.
And
She's
she's counterphobic. And
yeah.
that's what I learned about her
Yeah.
was that she can take charge of a situation and make it right.
Yes.
I mean, she can make it right. And when she's in that moment, I'm thinking, man, she's very controlling here. But it's because of that.
It's down. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. I need you to do this, as Steve was saying.
Take
I need
charge,
you to
take
do
control.
this. I need you to do this. I
Right.
need you to do this. That's a very that looks like a lot like an 8.
It does. It does. But the 9 can go in and assess perspectives and mediate and all of that. So healthy 6s take on those traits.
Yeah. But I think it is interesting because several people were like, what? You're a 6? Who kind of knew me a little more professionally. And, they were like, you kind of seem like an 8. We are, I think it's interesting. I think 6s are defenders. They're defenders of the common good. And I think for those who are more counterphobic, who are the 1-to-1, we have a little arsenal of baseball bats too that we bring out. We just prefer that you listen to reason first. But if we need to, we step up and we defend fear, fearlessly, really. Fear is there, but we walk into it, and that's the approach. We're gonna face it head on. So I think that there is overlay there, but it's not necessarily a first reaction. I really hope you listen to logic and reason first.
So sometimes Shelly gets upset at me because I let her be prepared.
Oh,
Are
She
you
wants-
okay? It aggravates her sometimes that she's the only one that's ever prepared.
Mhm.
Yes.
And it's because I let her, because she wouldn't let me do it anyway. I would not do it right.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
Do you see
Okay.
what I'm
Yeah,
saying?
Yeah.
Do you relate with that, Alice?
100%.
Okay. She is so
He
sick.
has a lot of money for this.
Yes, she is so sick.
I want my husband, who is a 9, to study, understand, and learn to prepare like me. And take that. Life's heavy. We're always having to.
We're going on vacation and things like that.
Oh, yes.
Okay. How do you feel about the word spontaneity?
Oh no.
Steven,
And most sixes do not like spontaneity. They are spontaneous if they know what they're doing and where they're going, but that's not spontaneous, right? If they have a plan. I'm very spontaneous. I'm like, let's drive up the mountain today, and go sightseeing. And she's like, nope, taking a nap or whatever. Like she had a plan for the day. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. And
That 7 wing, I don't know. The 7
Oh, what is your wing? What is your wing?
I was predominantly 7 earlier in life, but now 5. But I am making an effort to be more 7 because I had a bigger 7 wing when I got married. No, you can tap into spontaneity for sure.
You can.
Mhm.
I think I
If it
used to
fits.
be way more spontaneous.
Yeah.
But I mean, the older I get, no.
See, here's what I see your version.
That's true, Stephen.
The
We're
older you
having a
get.
birthday celebration. We'll be on the porch. You all stop by. So they can
But-
be spontaneous.
But I had
and
to know about it
Yes.
first. Like
No surprise.
literally, I thought Dustin was trying to surprise me because one of my I hadn't seen the Facebook post yet, and one of my friends said
Oh.
we're going to try to come tonight, and I'm like, oh my god, come to what? What are we coming to? I don't
Right.
know what that means.
right.
That's funny.
And then I saw the post,
Yes.
and I was like, oh, okay, no, this will be so much fun.
Yes.
I have learned not to invite people over without asking Shelly first.
Oh, for sure.
Okay.
Shelly was like, we did not discuss this.
Okay. So here's the question. Nothing is worse to me than when I feel what?
Lied to. Lied
Go
to.
Oh, lied
Great.
Lied
to.
to.
you.
Do
Ooh.
not lie to me.
Thank you. Yes, do not. And I have kids that lie, and they're just wasting their time.
Yeah.
I can read it like
Yeah.
a book.
Yeah.
They're lying, and
Yeah.
it makes me so mad.
Yeah.
They
Yeah.
are very big. Sixes seem to be really good discerners.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Very
Yes.
good judge of character.
Mm.
I have not met a person that my wife has said, something ain't right there.
Mhm.
Me from the get-go,
Mhm.
and then come to find out something wasn't right. You know what I
Uh-huh,
mean?
uh-huh.
It's like they're just very intuitive
Right.
Oh,
into that discernment.
I've had conversations with people where they're like telling the story about this guy, and he did this and did that. It's just such a wonderful story of grace. I'm like, why are you not seeing these red flags?
Right.
This is a
Right.
horrible story.
Right. There's
This guy
holes
has done
all in the
something
story.
really, really bad, and you think it's good. You're not seeing what I'm seeing behind.
Yeah.
I'm reading between the lines.
Right.
Mhm.
Right.
It's a sixth sense. We can pick up on the phony, we can pick up on the BS. And I think that, we tend to hold back until
Right.
we test that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you're not being authentic with me, I can see it a mile away.
Right.
And
Right.
I don't know. It's just sometimes that's hard.
So
Mhm.
the other flip side of that is nothing is better to me than when I feel what?
Relaxed, at peace.
Relaxed. Is it hard to get to that point?
I was wondering.
It is.
Yes.
I would agree with that. And
Wow.
it is very hard to get there.
Yeah, because you've got this committee of critics in your head constantly scanning the horizon for everything, or just overthinking everything?
Overthinking. I can lay in bed at night
Uh-huh.
and just replay. I can replay scenes from 2 years ago where
Uh-huh.
I think I did something. I wronged
Yeah.
somebody somehow.
Mhm. I think for a number of reasons, probably more so, we're always kind of planning and preparing.
Mhm.
I think, Steve, in our line of work makes it a little harder,
Mhm.
because we're, for me now, having stepped away in the last year, I do feel a lot more laid back because I'm like, well, it's not life or death. But before, so much of my life was life or death. I mean, there was, it's just a different level of intensity. But also the world over the last 5 years is a really tough place to live in.
Yeah.
And there is so, as Suzanne said, so much work for Six to do, and it's hard to escape it, in a sense. And that is where the Enneagram is helpful, because it's essentially conscious living, and that does allow me to say, okay, what is here now, and what is mine to do now? I think unhealthy sixes would have a really hard time, being able to relax because of that, but even healthy sixes, because there's always work to be done. We are doers.
Yeah.
When I retired, I slept for about a month.
I remember that. I remember.
I slept so much for an entire month.
Nines like to do that too.
And it
when they're
was,
stressed.
but it was literally, I mean, I was literally just flushing all the stress out of my system.
Right.
23 years worth of it. And now I'll go to work and my coworkers, my other caseworkers are talking about how stressful casework is. I'm just like, it's their choice. I can tell them what they need to do. It's their choice to do it or not. It's not on me. And I'm no stress from that. I'm like, you can either do what I recommend or you can get in more trouble.
Wow.
So the one of the things some of the podcasts I've listened to, they talk a little about how the stress path, the health, like they both help us. So knowing where we go, like you just kind of said too, Alice, just knowing a little about the Enneagram and your number, where you are in stress and in growth, they all help us. So sixes go to 9 in security. We kind of talked about that. So welcome to the 9 world, all you sixes. So this transition looks like they move to 9 in security, which is like what Stephen was talking about. It's a lovely little resting place for them. They can kind of just a little bit chill here. It's where they're not fretting and they're not concerned or worried about things. They're not making a list in their head of what they need to do. They're kind of kicking back. You can't experience any kind of holistic healing without having that experience, but that experience builds on itself, and they have to practice so that they get to do that when they are in security and they go to 9. So it's a nice move because it's kind of like, sit back, put your feet up, kind of enjoy, just being here today, not letting the stress or anxiety about worrying about planning or preparing or anything like that.
But 9s have to decide. I mean, sixes have to decide
to go there,
that they're going to go there.
Yes.
Because no one else can lure them there.
Right.
It's like they have to say in their own mind, okay, I'm going to chillax.
Like we used to camp a lot. And so we'd go camping, you just prepare, you get everything ready, you get there, you get everything set up. And as the kids started getting older, I was like, why am I doing all this work?
You've got able-bodied people to help you.
We get there and I'm like telling people what to do. You do this, do that, do that. Yet I'm over in I've already put my hammock up and I'm over there just going with the flow.
He's 9 in it.
I would 9 it when we camped. I love being a 9.
Welcome to the 9 world. Did that resonate with you too, Alice?
Oh, for sure. 2 things have happened if I'm in 9 mode. 1, I feel secure. And 2, I've decided to fall into faith a little, or to let things go. And when those two things happen, that's where I am. I'm finding myself more in 9 more easily these days, because of the awareness, because of the growth. But those two things have to be in place.
Mhm. And so then 6s go to 3 in stress. So Suzanne says essentially what that means is that in stress, they do a lot of things fast. 3s are, they kind of cut corners.
We don't cut corners.
they cut corners. They move fast. And 6s, when they are in stress or on the unhealthy side of stress, they get a lot of stuff done fast, but on the healthy side of stress, they think, I've got this. I know what needs to be done. I know how to do it, and I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it on behalf of these people. And so people step back and they say, okay, then. And then 6s then find the self-confidence that they need in the 3, and they find great awareness, self-awareness, and the strength they need. So it's great. It's not like it's a negative thing. It's where they find energy, a lot more energy. 3s have that energy they bring to it and the confidence, and then they just do it. Whereas 6s might be pondering still and planning and thinking, overthinking sometimes. So how is that true for you guys when you tap into 3s?
I procrastinate a lot.
Oh, that's your 9.
But I have to go into 3 to get it done. Like,
yes.
Like, I will wait a whole month, and then I'm like, okay, my billing has to be done in 5 days, so I need to get that done. And then I'll procrastinate for a couple more days, and I'll do a month's worth of billing in a day. I'll do it so fast. It's just like,
you get in that mode.
Get in
I have
the
to
zone.
I have to be in the zone.
Get in the zone. What about you, Alice? How does that 3 serve?
Yeah, I actually have thought about this a lot, because I feel like I have tapped a lot of 3 for a lot of my life. Because I don't understand. It goes back to doing your work, like everybody doing your work. And I have that next gear, and I often get frustrated when I feel like everybody else around me doesn't have that gear, or like, what's wrong with you? Why can't like I do go into that mode pretty easily. And, as far as my career, I definitely was able to find like my confidence there. Kind of with the help of a couple mentors that I had mentioned earlier, but very much more of that 3 in those zones for sure.
Gotcha.
I have a question
Okay.
that I want each of you to answer. This wasn't on the list. But 3s are never let them see you sweat, right? So here we go. What about spontaneity? Can you guys, because I like to be spontaneous.
You're right.
And I'm sure you wouldn't mind it either. You probably wouldn't think of it, but you would go with it.
Yeah, I can go with it because 9s are go with the flow, but 9s don't like surprises.
Well, I would
either.
like to, I would instigate it. Like, hey, let's go do this.
Okay.
How do you feel about that?
Right.
Being a 6.
When you're in your 3 zone.
Yes, when you're in your 3.
Because normally, like, they don't like spontaneity, they don't like surprises, they like to plan. So
right.
Yeah, but I think my experience going into 3 is it's under super stressful situations. So it's already spontaneous.
Okay.
Yes, that's what I was going to say. Like, maybe spontaneity sends you to 3.
Yeah. Yeah.
That chaos, like what we were talking about with our jobs. You never know. We show up as a 6 because we're preparing for everything and thinking about common good, all those things, intentions, motivations are probably a little different, but it's spontaneity. Spontaneity, I think, that probably sends us there. Would you say, Stephen?
Yeah,
that's interesting.
Yeah. I think it does, absolutely.
But I also think there's our 7 wing, and so for me, from like spontaneous fun, I'm thinking in that way, it really depends kind of like what's going on, but spontaneity is not, I like to say I like surprises if I know what to expect, but
That's not
I don't, spontaneity wouldn't be hard for me. I mean, I do that. And I was more of a 7 wing earlier in my life. And as I've aged, more of a 5. And I just kind of saw that about myself, like this lack of spontaneity. My husband kind of pointed out because I used to be way more spontaneous, adventurous. And so I tried to be more intentional about it. And it's honestly not that hard.
So let's talk about the wings for a second.
Yeah. We kind of
Because because we could dive into that a little bit.
Yeah.
So 6s have they're surrounded by the 5 and the 7. Okay.
Mhm.
In the Enneagram circle or the symbol. And so 5s, we have
real analytical,
very
deep thinkers,
researchers.
Yeah.
And then 7's more spontaneous, life of the
Adventurous.
party, adventurous.
You know what's interesting? Just hearing us talk about those for a minute, it seems like those are the most opposite of the wings that anybody could have, I think.
But do you think that you can relate to both of those wings, Alice? Like, can you relate to?
For sure.
Yeah.
For sure. I think that, like I said, and I think it's Suzanne's teaching that you usually have a stronger wing earlier in life and then it switches later in life. So my earlier life, I was definitely more 7 winged. As I went through my training, I became more 5 winged.
Right.
And I think that it is very interesting how it serves the 6, because actually I was reading recently and found it very interesting that 6s are considered the most logical number of the Enneagram. And you may think that that would be a 5, but I think that 5 helps inform it, but we're not as stuck in the analytical state as maybe a 5 is. And then the 7 helps you be spontaneously, not take yourself so seriously. And so I feel like actually it's been like my intention to strengthen and make sure I'm exercising both those wings, because it really creates the balance for that logical. And then the 7, it helps with the fun and not taking yourself so seriously.
Exactly.
Just listen to that.
Yeah.
So in college, I would have totally been more of a 7. And then I mean, I wouldn't say it's the training, but I mean, I had a critical, a fatal shooting early on in my career, PTSD, and I lost touch with 7 altogether. I think I'm starting to find 7 again. I was Friday night. I found 7 Friday night. But yeah, I'm getting back to where when I was a cop, I wouldn't have gone to a bar to go have fun, but I could now. I can now. I do it, and it's just different.
I love that. Well, we've just got I don't know, maybe 5 or 10 minutes left. So I just wanted you guys to like what do you need from others? Like from the people who love 6s, what do we need to do to be able to love our 6s?
Please tell me, what do you need from
so
me?
yeah, his wife is a 6. I've got a daughter who's a 6. Like what would it be helpful for us to know?
Validate us. We are angel advocates. We're not devil's advocates. I love Annie F. Downs is the one that said angel advocates, and I have really held on to that. Help us as we grow, but hear us. And I would really love it if the people in my life would drop paranoid, anxious from their vocabulary when they're talking to me.
Stephen's laughing. I think he can understand with that.
Very paranoid.
Wow.
It's offensive to me, because it's like really underneath all of it is just understanding our intention that we want to help everybody be safe. And these things, these thoughts are not coming like out of paranoia. They're coming from something that has touched us, something we've seen. And I imagine Stephen really resonates with that. And I have to spend a lot of time really kind of thinking about things because, with my job, I've seen I've seen everything. And, you see things that are not common, but the things that aren't common, you see frequently. And so you really can imagine anything could happen. So I just think validating us, hearing us, and then just kind of supporting us compassionately as we grow.
I think I'm going to tell on my wife. I'd been telling the story to several different people, and finally she told me, she's like, you need to quit telling that story. And I'm like, why? She said, because you're seeking validation, but it really comes off as you're bragging about how you handled the situation. I was like, oh yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Dang.
Yeah.
Ouch.
Yeah.
Ouch.
Ouch. Because yeah, validation is important. And I know with my daughter too, like she will call, her sister to get input, her dad to get input, me to get, and she's wanting different perspectives. But then when decisions are made, like she does need that validation, like this is a good decision, or this was a good, just consideration.
You made the right one.
You made the right one. And then even after the fact, when things have happened, like it really is so important.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. That's a good one. So what do you love about being a 6?
I like looking out for people. I mean,
Oh,
I've always,
love that.
I mean, but that's, I'm also, I was also a sociology major, so I just like to watch people in generally, but then also look out for people.
Yeah.
Our pastor, Jackie, consider others more. And that starts with the less than.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I have this whole ranking system of kids, on up to, like, oh, you don't need my help. This person over here needs my help.
Gotcha. Alice,
I
what
like
about
the
you?
fact that, I think that Stephen and I have kind of hit this, but like I'm great in emergencies. I think that our number lends itself to that, but also nothing surprises me really. Frankly, like I don't know if it's just my career, but truly not much surprises me because I can imagine it all. And I already probably have. So like the pandemic didn't shock me. The pandemic didn't surprise me. I knew it was going to happen. And I knew weeks before, and it already kind of worked past it, when everything closed down. I knew it was going to happen. And I knew what it was going to look like.
Mm-hmm.
And everybody called me paranoid. And then it was really kind of nice to be like, oh, okay, when it happens.
What do you love about being a 6 most, Alice?
I just like that it prepares you like
Being prepared. Yeah. That would be a superpower. I mean, that would be.
And it allows you, like Stephen said, it allows you to be there for others. I think we're often the people that anchor things down in emergency.
Yeah. And I like that you even prioritize, like, because you can't be there for everybody. And sometimes the people that are hollering the loudest are the ones that can do more for themselves, and you've got to look for the other folks too. So, so what does the world need to know? People identify as 6s that we haven't covered. Like, what is there that we haven't touched on that would be helpful? I kind of have covered it. So
I think that the one thing I would like people to know is that what you do or don't do to others hurts us. I think they're very empathetic, and a lot of times.
Wait, Alice.
Say that again.
Wait, mic drop.
Mic
okay,
drop.
We're gonna walk off stage now. No, say that again. That was good.
That was good. Yes, this is the best way to tie up our meeting.
Yeah. What you do or don't do to others hurts us. And what I was saying is I think that we're incredibly empathetic number on the Enneagram. And a lot of times when I have felt misunderstood, it was because people weren't understanding that fact that what you do or don't do to others, especially if they are vulnerable, especially if they are my people. Oh no, you have done it to me. And it's big. We're there to look out for the common good. We're steadfast and we're quiet until we are needed. And then when we're needed, we bear arms and we come forward and we will defend the common good.
The kick button, take names.
That's right.
That's right.
Love it.
That's right. Well, thank you
Gosh,
to
it was so
our
informative today.
friends who
So good.
identify as sixes.
Yeah.
We could not have done this without you because
No.
we're not.
Well, thank you for asking.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you so
This was
much.
fun.
All right. Well, until next time, we'll see you then. If this content has been helpful to you, I'd appreciate it if you would please rate the podcast, post it, and share it on social media. And also post a review. If you'd like to get in contact with me, my phone is 479-561-7600 or email Dr. Deborah at anchoredhopecounseling.net or Dr. Deborah at drdebfordoctors.com. Our website at www.anchoredhopecounseling.net has some useful information, and you can also reach out to me through the website. Remember, you are enough just the way you are, and you are loved.